Hi, everyone. This is Jim Jackson. We just want to let everyone know that we're so appreciative of all the great lists. I probably got about 30 lists from all you guys DMing me and emailing me, and some great movies that Keith and I got a chance to go through, and just such an amazing history with gangster movies and from all eras. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce our co-hosts. How are you doing, Keith?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
The great Keith Lyle, of course, from Las Vegas, a Mafia expertise. And it kind of blows me away. This has become kind of a cult thing. We've actually gotten several podcasters who deal with The Sopranos, who deal with all these other shows, contacting us, telling us they love it, they enjoy it. And an interesting thing is we were contacted by Steve Sharippa of Sopranos fame, and he is going to be on the forum.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so boy, Keith and I are touching a couple. I have gotten a couple shady contacts and people DMing me that I did call one number. It was in Chicago, and I left a message. It was just a plain message machine, no voice. It was just leave a message and on computer, and I left my message to call them back. So I don't know if these are people messing with me or if they're really in the Mafia or have ties or have history of it. But if you do and you're listening to this show, I have no problem talking to you.
It's probably the FBI seeing if
it could be
seeing what we know. And I got to tell you, I'm not a rat.
Well, the way things are today, good Lord, they may be at our front door by nightfall, so we gotta be careful.
With no names and no nothing, they come knocking on the door like it's Portland in my house. That's just what I need.
Now, Keith is a smarter movie viewer than I am, because when he sees a bad movie, he turns it off.
I just turn it off.
I'm a sadist, so I make myself watch it, and I don't know if I like just being sarcastic and cutting it down, but I've watched some really bad Mafia movies, and I've learned of a couple others. So again, I'm going to have the link. Check out our top gangster movies. But again, what we're going to be talking about today is the worst gangster movies of all time. Keith, why don't you go first?
All right. This is in no particular order, but I think just about everyone can agree that one of the worst mobster pictures of all time was Gotti with John Travolta.
Oh, you stole my thunder. Oh my God, is that horrific.
That is just a terrible movie. And I happen to think John Travolta as an actor doing the craft is underrated. He can emote and bring a character to life. And just, you could see the direction was bad. The script was bad. It was jumping everywhere. Now there's another Gotti film with Armand Assante.
He was amazing. Yeah.
Which is very good, except it's not necessarily historically accurate.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, I was so looking forward to it because I so like John Travolta's acting. And then to see it and be so disappointed. There were so many times I wanted to turn it off, and I went, no, Travolta will save this film.
Mm-hmm.
No, Travolta will save this film. And I was kind of surprised that it even was released, quite frankly.
Do you know, I watched a show on this on the History Channel, and boy, I'm watching the History Channel so much, but I watched a show on this. This film took 10 years to make. Oh, yeah. And originally they had Al Pacino and Joe Pesci involved with it. When they started to check out the script, check out the part, they were so disgusted with it, they refused to do the film, so they had to replace them. And they tried to get everyone and anyone, and a lot of people wouldn't do this film. In fact, they couldn't get a female actor for it. So, of course, little nepotism, which never happens in Hollywood. No. But he got his wife, Kelly Preston, to play Gotti's wife. And that, sadly, R.I.P., rest in peace, Kelly.
Rest in peace.
That was her final role. She does have one posthumous role that's coming out, but this was the last role that was released while she was alive, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah, that is sad.
Yeah, this movie was horrendous. What's interesting, too, is this was one of the few movies on Rotten Tomatoes that has a 0%
Yeah.
And what's funny is Gotti's friends and some of the people that are big supporters of Gotti, they actually went and started putting great reviews on it to increase the reviews. So Rotten Tomatoes had to now turn off the reviews and then reevaluate it to see what was going on, because they literally paid money to do a PR thing for this film to make it into something good. So
wow.
just crazy. It also only made, the budget was 10 million. I think worldwide it made something like 6.1 million.
Wow.
And
I would think it would have a bigger budget just because so many other people passed on it.
Yeah.
Like for Travolta to step in and go, oh, I'll do it. Like looking at this terrible script. I would think they'd have to throw more money at it. Maybe it was back end money, and the fact that it didn't make any is.
Yeah. What's interesting is that there's rumors that there was underhanded deals, because this was one of the feature films at the Cannes Film Festival, which obviously if you do well there, a lot of times you get box office gold. But it was actually released at it, and the Cannes were so upset. Some of the people in the heads of Cannes were so upset that it was released, they only allowed it to be played once. And that is one of the few times in history that one of their lead films has only been played once. So absolute and Armand Desante was dead on. Wow, was he good?
He was fantastic. He was really good in that. Like I say, I don't know how historically accurate it was, but which is another thing, like it's hard to live up to that portrayal. Which made it that much harder. And you're talking about someone that I think just about anyone who's going to turn on the film is going to know who John Gotti is, and they're going to expect a certain something. And when that doesn't turn up, that's a lot of pressure. Just as a filmmaker, I would think that's a lot of pressure. And then to put out that piece of crap, like it was a joke. Yeah,
they said historically it was pretty much not true in the least, but they said it's one of the most worst historically accurate mobster movies. So they did this purely for entertainment. And it wasn't entertaining.
No.
So absolutely horrific. So that, I'll have to be honest with you, that is my number one of all time worst ones.
It's got to be.
You stole mine, so I'm going to do it. Now, another one that I hated was The Gangster Squad. What's interesting is because I think Emma Watson was in it, Ryan Gosling, and they were big shot. Everyone loved them, and they were having a love affair and all this stuff in the movie, so it was a big deal, but it was a horrific, and what a cast. God, it had a great cast, but it was horrible. It was nowhere near. Someone said it looked like Sean Penn, who played the bad guy. They said it literally looked like Sigmund and the Sea Monster from the 70s because the makeup was so horrific. It
was awful.
Oh my God. And they had really great casts. And this was another movie that a lot of people thought was going to be a huge box office hit. They spent a ton of money on, it was done in 2013, a ton of money marketing this film. The first day it did great. After that, it just absolutely tanked. And it was just a horror. I mean, here's some of the cast. Josh Brolin, Ryan Gosling, Nick Nolte, Emma Stone, Robert Patrick, Michael Pena, Sean Penn. And you know what's sad, Keith, is that it was the story about Mickey Cohen. And Mickey Cohen was a fascinating character.
Yeah.
And if they did a good movie about it, that would have been awesome, because I think he's fascinating.
Well, that's kind of, I thought it was gonna, in order to make the movie proper, I think it should have revolved more around Mickey Cohen, and he shouldn't have been. Like, he wasn't that ruthless. I mean, it just wasn't right. I don't know. I agree with you. It was a terrible film, and with such great actors, I'm not sure how they got it made. It wasn't historically accurate. It was just I'm trying to think of the time in 2013, or at least in, what did they probably make it in 2011 or something, what they were thinking at the time. Oh, we put a bunch of great actors together, we'll get the funding for it, we'll put out I don't know. You're right, it was bad. And to have, I don't think any of the actors in the movie would want you to remember that they were in that movie. I would think like Josh Brolin and Ryan Gosling would want you to remember them for a different film.
Yeah.
Any other film. Emma Stone would probably deny she was even in the film.
Yeah. The problem, this one was another one. They said it was horrifically inaccurate. They just made it totally, because if you remember,
it's fiction.
Yeah, Cohen's Bodyguard, and I saw this on one of the real life stories of Mickey Cohen on one of those Mafia channels on the History Channel. History Channel, you got to pay me, jeez. Cohen's Bodyguard, Johnny Stompanato was killed, remember, and this was a very huge scandal at the time in 1958. He was stabbed by Cheryl Crane, who was the daughter of Lana Turner, who was his girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah.
Lana Turner's daughter. Yeah. And it was a whole thing. And the daughter ended up not going to jail for it. Yeah. It was it was a huge deal.
Scandal. Yeah.
That in and of itself could get a movie.
Yeah. And see, in the movie, they had him shot and killed.
Yeah.
So it was just too many. I know you got to make it for Hollywood and all that stuff, but Jesus, you got to make it a little bit real life. Again, my big one, Gangster Squad in 2013, huge thumbs down. What's your next one?
Okay, I didn't like the movie Dick Tracy.
This was another, it seems like, hate or love movie.
Yeah. And I didn't like it. It was a big box office thing. Maybe it was because I was, like maybe 20 years old when it came out. And I may have been in a bad mood that day. I don't know. It had a lot of hype around it. It had, Madonna singing the theme song, which was absolutely abysmal. It was terrible. The theme song was awful. And it just had so much hype. And I'm not really, I'm an oddball because I'm not really a superhero type movie fan anyway. I like the original Superman with Christopher Reeve when I was a kid, but I don't watch any of them now. I did watch the Batman of that era, and it was all right. But this seemed like it was a comic book character made into a film, and it looked like a comic book character made into a film. It just wasn't compelling to me. It was kitschy. It was just too kitschy. I wanted it to be more of a serious film, and it wasn't, and that's why I didn't enjoy it.
I think
I'm sure I'll get some heat for it, but that's fine. It just wasn't my film.
Again, I'm not a big Warren Beatty fan, I thought Madonna was over the top in it. I just didn't like it the way she was, and I don't. She's an okay actress at times, but that was just brutal. I just didn't like the whole thing. The kid, he bothered me. The little boy that played the kid, he bothered me too. I just didn't like it. There was some great people in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought Al Pacino played the best role. I thought he was great in it. I thought the bad guys, Mumbles with, oh my gosh, famous act, Dustin Hoffman, I thought he was funny. William Forsythe was good as Flat Top, but then the rest just got a little bit weird. I thought the art and Paul Sorvino, I liked his lips.
Yeah, Paul Sorvino was good. Dick Van Dyke was cute.
Yeah.
Dustin Hoffman was good.
But they had a lot of great James Caan,
Manny Patinkin,
yeah. So they had a lot of great
Catherine
people,
O'Hara.
but like you said, it just got weird, and it was just the story I just didn't get. I didn't
get it either. It was too much. It was too much for that.
I wasn't freaked out over it. Like, they did win awards for the art. I just thought it was unique. But yeah, I'm with you. I know a lot of people love this movie, but to me, I just thought it was weird and just strange. And I know that's cool for some, but I'm not. And Warren Beatty, again, I'm not a big fan of Warren. So yeah, this one was brutal. I gave it probably a 3 to 4.
Yeah. I mean, I know Warren Beatty directed it and all that. It just, I'm sorry, it didn't do it. It was just too much. It was too much. Everything. It was like they threw it together. They tried to make a through line story. It was. And a great cast again, and they spent a ton of money on it, and it made a ton of money. And some people loved it. I was one of the people. Like I said at the time, I think most people considered me a contrarian for not liking it, but I just thought it was. I never liked it, and I stand by it.
Stop using syllables over two syllable words over two syllables, Keith. But
it's my UNLV education.
the Go Rebels. Now, were you there with Tarkanian? Come on, they didn't have class at that time.
No, I was there though. With a couple other guys that did play in the NBA, and there was one particular class where I committed an NCAA violation because I passed a Scantron test form that was already filled out behind me to a player who later played in the NBA.
Wow.
For many, many years.
I'll have to tell you some of my stories. I had a friend that he played for the number one team in the nation, and he in the late 70s, early 80s, and he told me he had a card that he could go look like a clear credit card, and he'd go to any restaurant in the Bay Area and get a meal for free. He would just have to show this card. Him and a guest could get food anytime they wanted. So that was his perk.
I could tell you the basketball player's name rhymes with Sean Marion.
Oh, I know exactly who it is. Oh, boy. Really?
Yes.
Wow.
He was always very nice to me, though. So now it's past the statute of limitations, so I may as well just let it go.
Well, last UNLV story, I had a friend that actually played at UNLV, but he was a bench warmer, but he still got to get a little bit of perk. His, friend or big buddy, whatever they'd get, he'd get a couple of $100 a month, but he got to drive around Bobby Riggs.
Oh, wow.
And he said Bobby Riggs is the most eclectic person he has ever met. That guy would bet on the air if he could.
I believe that.
Oh,
I believe that.
But
and I think that some evidence came out a couple years ago about that match he had with Billie Jean King possibly being rigged, and I would not be surprised.
You wonder, because the ratings, if he would have won, it wouldn't have garnished in history, and also the ratings that it would have. Mm-hmm. Everyone wanted, because he was like a wrestler. He was the heel, and when she won, it made the sport. It was just such a huge deal. And that guy, what a hustler! God,
and people forget he had already beaten a woman in a previous tennis match at the time.
Didn't he beat
earlier? Yeah, I can't
Von
remember
Goolagong or Margaret Court?
Yeah, he beat. It wasn't like That's why I say it could be.
And he wasn't upset afterwards.
Nope.
So, I think he was one of those kind of Minnesota Fats type guy that as long as they got their pockets full, everything's all good. So,
absolutely right.
Yep. Now, my next one, I just have to, and I know Florence is going to be in mourning. It's Godfather 3. I watched that. I gave it a chance. I didn't get it. I thought the acting was horrible. And Sofia Coppola, God bless her, she's great in a lot of things. But wow, that was I just did not like that film.
Well, I would say I thought it was average. But when compared to the other great films, it's hard. And then so many years later, this was maybe what was it, like 20 years later or something?
Yeah, 1990.
Yeah, 1990. So number 2 came out in 74. So that's 16 years. It's hard to, so much time has passed. Filmmaking had changed from the 70s to the 90s. So, and there was people wanted it to be good, and it was already people were like, how are you going to top 2? Because so many people thought Godfather 2 was better than 1. I happen to think 1 was better. They're both great. It's hard to, it's hard to pick one of them. It's like asking which is your favorite Backstreet Boy. They're all so good. It's hard to pick one. This was not good. Definitely, it was average at best. I mean, you like the characters, you love the characters, you know the characters, and you just wanted more from them. And like I said, there was not much you could do. There's not much. It seems
like they did it for money. Just like, gosh, this is one of the most popular films in history. It's 15, 20 years later. Let's do it. Let's do another.
It does seem like a money grab. It seems like they threw a lot of money at the people, and because I think they didn't want. I always feel like they don't want to make a sequel. Like I can only speak from. I don't know this for a fact, but The Hangover did great. The Hangover 2 did even better. And so when it came time for Hangover 3, a lot of people didn't like the film, and it felt like to them a money grab. And when the actors, I know that the actors were getting like 5% or 3% of gross dollar one, And, you know, the first two films made over 500 million each. So you're talking about $15 million. You know, for that kind of scratch, you're gonna, oh, all right, you know, I'll put it aside. You know, we'll do it. And you know, the director owns a piece of the movie anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's hard to say no when they're throwing that much money in front of you. I get it, but the pressure, I mean, if it on its own without seeing the other two, you'd be like, oh, this is okay. But having seen the other two, knowing the characters, wanting to, you know, more, you're just like, it didn't work.
Yeah.
It just didn't work.
Now, what's interesting is a fourth film was in the works. Coppola said that he wanted to do a fourth film, and he talked to it with Mario Puzo, but he died.
Right.
And before they could actually write it. And then another, I guess, a portion of what he had written, they brought in another book by Edward Falco that was published in 2012 called The Family Corleone. And what's interesting is Paramount sued the Puzo estate. They didn't want the book released. So what ended up happening is the Puzo estate said, you allow us the book to be released, we'll give you the retaining rights to future films. So Paramount at this time has the rights to future films. They had said they were looking at De Niro reprising his role as a little bit younger Vito Corleone, and then using Leonardo DiCaprio to portray a young Santino Corleone when he got the Corleone's family political power. So, and they wanted Andy Garcia back as well. So crazy stuff with that, but so
just about everyone you talk to will tell you that the film was not that good, but it still was nominated for like 7 Academy Awards, including for Best Supporting Actor. It just wasn't that good.
I think it was, like you said, it was an average film, but it's like compared to what it was a big letdown.
Right. And I think those nominations came based on the history of, you know, sometimes an actor or an actress will get nominated or win based on their career history. And this seemed like that's what those nominations were when they came out at the time, because everyone looked at each other and went, huh?
Yeah. If George Clooney can win an Oscar, give me a break.
Right.
But that's for another day. Oh, stop it. You guys are George Clooney. But what was I going to say? What's your next one?
I didn't like a movie called Public Enemies.
Wow. Okay.
Public Enemies. I kept watching it. It has his name, Johnny Depp, and he was he played John Dillinger. And, you know, I'm a Chicago guy, so I'm familiar with John Dillinger and everything that happened. Christian Bale was the FBI agent. Yeah. And who was Edgar Hoover? Billy Crudup. So I'm waiting for something to happen. Yeah. And just through the whole thing, it just was slow and boring. And I wanted to turn it off. And my wife's going, no, something's going to happen. And I'm like, well, I know how it ends. But I mean, like... and it was just so, it seemed like the performances, no one cared. Yeah. I didn't buy any of the performances as any of the characters. And this is before I was, I wasn't really as deep into acting or had as critical of an eye in 2009 when it came out. I just wanted this film to be better than it was. Maybe it was my own, love of the genre that I expected more. And I mean, I just couldn't wait to see this film. And I just didn't like it. I know it got a lot of good reviews and made some money at the box office, but I just thought it just didn't do it for me. And I'm sure I'll get some flack about it, but I think Johnny Depp's a great actor. I think, again, star-studded cast, and Christian Bale is one of the best on the planet, as far as I'm concerned. I think Stephen Dorff was in it. These guys are great actors. I didn't like it.
I agree. I think Johnny Depp missed the mark. I was so excited when this movie came out because I thought, okay, Johnny Depp, all his psycho weird things that he plays. This is John Dillinger, a charismatic, very dapper. This guy is the king of what a mobster and a gangster is. And he was such big news back then. And I thought Johnny Depp missed the mark. I didn't get it. I didn't get that he played the John Dillinger role as charismatic as he should have been. And I didn't understand. I didn't get this film. Christian Bale's a good actor, and I've heard some tapes about how difficult he is to work with, but he seems like a great actor. And Billy Crudup, he's got some great accomplishments as well. So I was shocked that this movie was as lame as this. Almost made my list. I just thought everyone was just kind of getting a paycheck. I just did not think anyone was engulfed in these roles. And this was really touted at the time as a big time movie, and it did okay. 60% range for reviewers who gave it between 60 and 70% positive rating. But boy, I was so disappointed in this film, and in Johnny Depp. I finally thought, okay, I'll dump my dislike of him and all his roles, and I'll give him and he dropped the ball. I just didn't get it.
It was bad. Now, one side note: parts of this film were filmed at a high school I graduated from, Libertyville High School in Libertyville, Illinois.
Wow.
So that made me, when I heard that, I was like, okay, I got to see this film. And so I was very disappointed, which I went there, and there was another kind of good actor that is alumni from there. His name's Marlon Brando.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah, this is a very old high school, but he went back in the 40s or 50s, I think. Yeah.
Wow. Now the next one, I don't know if you've ever, I like older movies. I like movies from all times, even silent movies. But the one that cracked me up that I thought, even as a comedy, was just comically bad was The Gang That Couldn't Shoot Straight. Robert De Niro was in this.
Yep.
And it was supposed to be a mafia comedy film.
Yeah.
And
those never go well.
Yeah, it was so horrible that it wasn't even that. It was just such a bad movie, and historically it was just way off the mark. Most people gave it, between 30 and 40% positive rating, but it was just so fun. People said it was tasteless and laughable. De Niro, it's funny because you see De Niro in this film and he just plays a wimpy, just a weird role. And and what's interesting is here's one of the greatest mafia guys of all time, and he's in a movie like this. This was also, do you remember Tattoo?
I was going to say, yes.
His first film.
Hervé Villachez was in it, yes.
His first film.
Yes.
So he was in it as well. So it was just horrific. I don't know if you've ever
really
seen
bad. It. Yeah. I saw parts of it because it was so bad. And, because it's got De Niro in it, so you watch it. And at this time, when it came out in the, 70, 71, 72, De Niro, I don't know, he was not as established. He was established, but not as established. And now we could look back and go, oh, De Niro loves to do comedy roles. He's done so many great comedic roles. But this was just bad. Like it was awful. It really was awful. Yes. And it was at a time when they didn't always make awful movies, but when they try so hard to make it a comedy, that's what it was. They didn't wait for they didn't just kind of make the funny happen. They just, they forced it. It was forced comedy.
It was bad.
That's bad.
Now, this is what's interesting. I think what's more interesting to this is the trivia behind it. Do you remember a movie called Bang the Drum Slowly, a baseball movie?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Well, what's interesting is the lead role was supposed to go to Al Pacino. Robert De Niro was playing the part of the driver Paulie in The Godfather.
Mm-hmm.
Francis Ford Coppola wanted Al Pacino now, and he didn't want to wait. He wanted him to play Michael Corleone, and he didn't want to wait for this film to be done because it would have cost him a ton of money to wait. So what he did is he got Pacino released from Bang the Drum Slowly, but in return he had to give up De Niro to replace Pacino in the role. Yeah.
Wow.
So that is some amazing trivia that you see from Godfather time. Also, what's interesting is the movie was the guys that were making Bang the Drum Slowly were angry that they lost Al Pacino, but Coppola at that time, he they did what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
So he made Robert De Niro audition 7 times.
Oh my gosh.
To get this film to kind of as a punishment. It was just
I could just see De Niro going, "You want me to audition again?" Squint in his face. Again, I got to audition.
Oh,
Again,
unbelievable.
for this.
Yep. And
it's a comedy, right? Comedy.
Yeah, it was kind of a half comedy. De Niro played a catcher that was had terminal cancer, and he really didn't fit in with any of the players.
Right.
They bullied him, and then the star pitcher became best friends with him, and they realized this guy wasn't a bad guy. Right. He was just kind of weird. You know, he's just kind of different and shy.
Yeah, it was like a Mean Girls before Mean Girls.
Yeah, it was kind of
movie,
and it was interesting.
It was a good movie. I think it was critically acclaimed, and
yeah. Very
they still talk about it to this day.
Yeah, and it was filmed at Yankee Stadium and Shea Stadium, right. So it was very good. Also, another debut in Bang the Drum Slowly, Danny Aiello.
Ooh, there you go.
Yep.
Who was in a ton of mob
his second films. Movie that he played, Godfather Part 2.
Yep.
So so there was a lot of ties that I thought were very interesting. But again, the gang that couldn't shoot straight. And to be honest with you, the movie that this was based, or the book that this was based on, is good. This is not, but the book is really good.
Yeah, was it Jimmy Breslin wrote that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Very good.
He's a great writer. Yeah.
Yeah, like really good book. Now, do you have any more? Or do you want me to keep going?
Oh yes.
Why don't you do another one?
I have a couple more.
Go for it.
There's a movie from 1984. If I told you a movie from 1984 had Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds, two of the two of the top box office guys of the era, you'd go, I got to see this movie.
Yep.
And they're going to play it's a gangster film. You go, oh, this is going to be great. It's a movie called City Heat.
Yep.
It's terrible. And it's directed by Richard Benjamin. You know, he knows. It was originally Blake Edwards wrote the screenplay. And when he wrote it under, he was going to direct it as well. And he ended up doing it under a pseudonym of Sam O. Brown after they fired him as director and made Richard Benjamin director. It's a terrible film. Absolutely awful. I mean, talk about star-studded class. Eastwood, top of his game in 84. Reynolds, top of his game in 84. Madeline Kahn, Rip Torn, Irene Cara, who's in the movie Fame.
Oh, yeah,
sang
great.
The movie Fame, right? She sang it. I mean, just great cast. Richard Roundtree, who was in all those blaxploitation films. And it was just awful. Just awful. It wasn't shot right. The movie made no sense. Hard to follow.
Yeah.
No one liked it. It came out. You think it made money? I don't think it made a dime. No one liked it. It got terrible reviews. But I remember watching it on video, and my dad brought it home. You're going to love this film. We watched it. We looked at each other and went, oof. How can we get our 2 hours back?
Yeah. I hated it too. I am still a big, and God rest his soul, I love Burt Reynolds, Sharky Machine, The Longest Yard, so many great movies that he did. And, who doesn't love Clint, the spaghetti westerns and all the things, and he's still doing it.
Great actor.
Great just director. Amazing talent. So two icons, especially at that time. Burt was king, and Clint was too, and that movie got so much publicity. And then when it freaking got released, I thought it was a full-fledged comedy.
Yeah,
I didn't get it. I'm thinking, this can't be real. Is this?
And I think, when you look back in the 80s, they were looking back to an earlier simple, everything about the 80s was looking back to an earlier simple life, whether it was Back to the Future, going back to the 50s, Happy Days, although started in the 70s, it was still popular in the early 80s. There was a lot, Ronald Reagan was president, who was a star in the 50s. So there was a lot of going back to an earlier and simple time. And I think this was a throwback. It's meant to be a throwback to those gangster movies of the 40s and 50s that everyone loved. And at the time we're talking about, it was, supposed to be a tribute to those, but it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. It was, and filmmaking has changed from there. There's, it's a different, the style has changed more or less. And you have to, the filmmaker, Benjamin didn't really adapt to the change in the style and tried to make a film that was, in my opinion, tried to make a film that was, a tribute to those, and it just didn't come off well. And I didn't like it. And I tried to watch it again as an older, at 14, you don't know what you're looking at. But then as an adult, I tried to watch it again. Hey, maybe I was off. Let's see, and it was still bad. And I realized at that time, when I watched it a couple years ago, that I'm really not a fan of Blake Edwards.
Yeah.
That's what,
yeah.
And it's because of films like that.
I was the same way. I felt so bad about it. And I watched all these movies, in fact, in the last week. So but this one I couldn't watch. I watched it halfway through and I just said, oh my God, I'm not finishing this one. This is enough research for Clint. That was my number 7. Okay. Now my next one, Mobsters.
That was my next one.
1991.
Yes.
You want to talk about a pretty boy movie that had nothing to do with history. Yes. This is it. Christian Slater, Patrick Dempsey, Costas Mandylor, Richard Grieco, all sexy, guys that weigh about 150 pounds, and they're all acting like bad gangsters. I thought this film was the funniest. I could not get it. And the only one that I liked was F. Murray Abraham.
He was good.
Yeah. I thought he did a good role. Too. Yeah. So, but those 4, holy Lord. And this is another movie that gets destroyed. Rotten Tomatoes has it as a 6%. So out of 100. So this one,
7 more than it should get.
Yep. And they rated an F in some sites. So Robert Ebert just said, wow, is this a parody? I don't know what this is.
It's so bad. To watch these guys try to act tough, it's like watching like Bros.
Yeah.
Like not even like Jersey Shore bros, but just like douchey bros, like that think they're cool and they're not, try to be tough. You're just looking at them going like, huh? Really? You're not even a good Gindaloon. You're not. It was clearly made as something to at this time when this movie came out. It was clearly made to bring women to the theater, and it was a type of movie where they go, I want to go see this whichever star you like, Richard Grieco, Patrick Dempsey, Christian Slater. I want to go see his new film. And your boyfriend, the girl's boyfriend's like, no. Oh, but it's a gangster film about mobsters. Meyer Lansky. Like, oh, okay, let's go. So that's exactly what it was, and you'd watch this. It's laughable.
Oh God, the Mad Dog, Nicholas Sadler. I think he was the Mad Dog. I forget. Mad Dog Cole.
Yeah.
And oh my God, Cole, and it was just horrible. I did like Chris Penn as Tommy Reyna. I think I like Chris Penn. I know he had issues and things, but I thought he did a good job. But that as Arnold Rothstein, F. Murray Abraham. But this movie is just so over the top. Costas Mandylor, who was it? Costas Mandylor. I just wanted to beat him in the head. this was a horrible.
Oh yeah, role. He was Frank Costello, and it was just so unbelievable because Frank Costello was nothing like that.
Yeah, it's just horrible. But I Christian Slater's a good actor. I know he's a pretty boy, but he's a good actor. But this was just borderline ridiculous. But that was mine. Do you have another one for us?
I have one more, and it just came out this year, and it's one of these things where sometimes as an actor you get privy to certain films that get sent to you, or someone sends you a link and you got to see this, so it's not something I think the average person would go and see or find, but it's a movie called Elvis from Outer Space.
I've never heard of it.
Yes, and it is about a gambling Elvis impersonator, and he has some troubles with the Vegas Mafia, and so they end up these Elvis impersonators end up in a competition over who's the best Elvis.
Oh
and
my God.
It's so bad that it's like the worst B movie you ever saw. And unless you like Elvis or B movies is the only reason to watch this. You almost have to be on acid to enjoy it. And they don't even do, like when they're impersonating Elvis, they don't even do the best Elvis songs. Like couldn't spend money on the rights to the best Elvis songs. So they end up using the worst. It's just really, really
I'm
bad.
gonna watch this tonight.
With no actors you ever heard of. And it was released in theaters, I think. It played in theaters. I don't know which ones. I don't know if it was during the pandemic or not, but someone sent it to me and said, you got to see this. You're not going to believe it. I think it was because he auditioned for a part in there, and he's a really good actor, and he didn't get it, and it went to someone else who was really bad. And it's just not a good film. It's just not good. That's all. It's just not good.
What year was it made? Do you know
what? It was just this year. It came out this year. Yeah. Elvis from Outer Space.
I have got to watch this. Oh my gosh.
It is garbage. But I don't know. Maybe if you're in the right mindset where you
know what? Maybe it's my sarcastic attitude. I love watching bad movies sometimes because they crack me up.
This one is so bad you'll laugh.
Yeah, it's like Ed Wood, Planet 9 from Outer Space. You watch that, and you're just like, this is just freaking awesome. It's just so bad, and that's what I like. And little trivia: did you know who Elvis Presley thought did the best impression of him of all time?
No,
Andy Kaufman.
Oh, that's right, Andy Kaufman. That's right.
He said he did the best Elvis of all time that he likes. So, but yeah, and Elvis is probably saying, "Good Lord, you guys are still looking for me. You're making movies about me. What the heck is going on?" So, but wow, this was fun talking about all these movies because again, we like to celebrate the talents and the good things. But let's face it, some of our stars that we love, they have done stinkers, and listen, I don't blame them. You're getting paid, but still, there are some stinkers out there.
There are, and I got to say, from it's hard to maybe people don't realize how hard it is to put a movie together when you get movie magic. And I was fortunate to be in a great film where there was movie magic, because if you saw the script, you would go, this is like, I saw the full script. Someone gave me, I eventually got a copy, and you'd go, how are they going to make this?
Yeah.
And when you have, the director has to have a vision, the actors have to have visions. And when it all comes together, you make movie magic. It really is movie magic. And I think, all these actors and the directors all had meetings with the, producers. They all went together. They had pre-production, all these things. And they tried to put together a film. And it just, they did the magic. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yep. I hope Hollywood, though, starts, and it's also our fault, too, because we're such lazy, movie goers. We want mindless Avengers, and we want mindless movies, and we want 19 sequels. I'm sorry, I can only see Ghostbusters so many times before you make 3 sequels of it. I don't want all that stuff. It's embarrassing when a foreign film wins the Oscar.
Yes.
Because our films stink.
Yeah.
I mean, that is embarrassing. So
that's one of the reasons why I don't go to those superhero films. And I know all my friends love them. All the comedians I hang out with love them. And number one, they're not my thing. And number two, like, I don't want Hollywood to keep making those and I don't want. And when you see legit, strong, great actors and actresses, Academy Award winning actors and actresses being in those films, it legitimizes it. And I understand they're paying ridiculous amounts of money, and you want to be in films that people see, but I don't want to support them.
Yeah, enough. So don't, and also I know some of you just go to the movies because you like it, and that's great, but pick good movies, or pick movies that are a little bit out of the ordinary or out of the way, that may not be in the big time, because some of these movies, they become cult followings, and they could put out trash and people are watching. Spider-Man, some of these Spider-Man movies are horrific.
Awful. Well, they're doing it on Netflix now too. Bird Box, or whatever that was.
Yeah,
other things, people.
Oh, God. Superman
they put out
movies.
Some real garbage on Netflix, I'll tell you.
Oh, Netflix. It's like everybody's now a filmmaker or television show maker. So, it's this is why I like some of the older movies, and I love watching some of the older movies. But we'll be back next week. Thank you all for your amazing support. And also give me your messages on your list. I had a list where someone chewed me out for probably about 200 words saying Godfather 3 is a great film. So, hey, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. And I listen to every message. But thank you all for your support. Thank you all for your communication. We'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Take care.